Each department would be headed by its own director to be assisted by a deputy and unit heads as per an organization chart. The Border Management and Immigration Services, this department would comprise the uniformed services with responsibility for the following: Belize Northern Border Station, Philip Goulshan International, Belize City Cruise Terminal, Belize City Port, Belize Western Border Station, San Pedro, Danguiga Office, Independence Office, and Harvest Key, Punta Gorda Office, and Halacte, Belompan Immigration Services Office, various permits including extensions, dependent permit, temporary employment permit, etc. Orange Rock Tongue Office, Corozal Tongue Office, San Ignacio Tongue Office, and Secretariat for the Visa Vetting Committee. Stations at A to E are stations which are mainly involved in the recording of arrival and departure of persons into and from Belize. In addition to the above station, Border Management and Immigration Services Department would also be responsible for the enforcement unit, comprising an operations unit, an investigation unit, and a prosecution unit. Operations include assignment of officers to the mobile interdiction team, conducting checkpoints, border patrol, escort of convicted immigrant offenders to prison, repatriation, and work permit inspections, construction sites, bars, restaurants. The investigative unit will undertake interviews for permanent residents, interviews for passports in the case of loss, certain first-time issues, interviews for nationality, interviews for visas, interviews in the case of suspect marriages. The prosecution unit undertakes the detention of offenders, recording of statements, interviewing of witnesses, escorting of offenders to court, or repatriation, preparation, and presentation in cases of court. The Nationality and Passport Department would be responsible for accepting and issuance of temporary border permits and border crossing cards, acceptance and processing of applications for permanent residents, acceptance and processing of applications for nationality by registration, marriage, or descent, acceptance and processing of applications for passport, acceptance and processing of applications for skill certificates, and be the secretary to the National Scrutinizing Committee. Applications for services which fall under the Nationality and Passport Department in the district tongues would continue to be performed through the existing offices in those districts by clerical staff in those stations. The Ministry does not foresee any requirements for additional staffing for the Border Management and Immigration Services Department. However, there would be need for redeployment of 5 administrative officers from the mainstream public service to be deployed as follows: Border Management and Immigration Service Department, HR Matters; Nationality and Passport Department, HR Matters; Customer Service, Permanent Residence Unit, Nationality Unit, and Passport Unit. It should also be noted that the Ministry intends to request redesignation of the recently approved 2 posts of Assistant Directors to a Deputy Director, 1 for each department.
Mr. President, I think it is, to be frank, an act of disrespect to the Senate for these amendments to be proposed at this time. The Senate is well aware that a committee appointed by resolution of this Senate to look into the entire processes and activities of the Immigration Department is well advanced and is now in the process of drafting its report. We heard testimony in the Senate with respect to the organization and activities, the difficulties and the challenges. We visited the premises in order to see for ourselves the workflow, the staffing, and the arrangements. We are now at a point where we have taken all our evidence and at the point of preparing a report to be submitted to this Senate. The justification given to us just now by Senator Hulse of the backlog. Your committee, Mr. President, received testimony on the question of the backlog. We received testimony on how the department is addressing the question of the backlog. It is noteworthy to me that we did not get any proposal that this bifurcation should take place.